That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
During the 1960s and 70s, the world's two largest superpowers vied to be the first to put a human on the surface of our closest planetary neighbor, the Moon. Both the United States and the Soviet Union spent an immense amount of manpower and resources in order to study and map the lunar surface in preparation for this massive endeavor. NASA's Apollo missions from 1969 to 1972 put a total of 12 people on the Moon. From these missions, valuable information and data were gathered that perhaps raised more questions than answers for scientists studying our lunar companion. Rocks that had been gathered from the surface displayed magnetic properties that challenged previous theories of the Moon not having a magnetic field at all. Seismometers placed on the Moon picked up incredible readings that prompted remarks that the Moon rings like a bell during impacts on the lunar surface. Even with the incredible amount of information learned about the Moon to date, scientists are still debating about the origins of the Moon and its many mysteries. This case file joined the theorists as they cut deep into the Moon's cheesy baked crust to explore the lunar interior in the Hollow Moon Theory.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing, Case File 168, The Hollow Moon Theory. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
I love how just as we started, everyone's cameras
Everyone just
went massive.
exploded.
This is going to be an interesting case file today because to be honest, for me, I feel like we've debunked this entire thing because I thought we decided that we haven't been on the moon, and all this hinges on the fact that we've been to the moon.
You're still on that, are you?
Well, I mean, there doesn't have to, if there's alien bases on the moon, then if we haven't been to the moon, that would make more sense.
Yes. Now, I mean, I did the research, obviously, with, I had to read everything with quite a few grains of salt to believe it, but it's interesting stuff.
They tried to prove stuff with math.
Yeah. I don't understand math.
Poppycock.
Dude, it makes more sense that they went to the moon because there was alien bases there.
Not because it was made of cheese?
Well, depends on the cheese, I guess.
Well, tell it to Wallace and Gromit, all right?
Okay, where does this theory start? It's a fun one. You can go a lot of different ways. So how do we start with this one?
I mean, you could really start with this one with number one, the moon is weird. That's a fact. The moon is a strange thing.
Super weird.
It is not
strange.
We are not 100% sure of a lot of things about the moon. Most of the stuff that we do know about the moon is like little bits and pieces in the grand scheme or the grand scale of everything. We only know kind of small bits and pieces about the moon itself. A couple quick facts about the moon. It's 22,000 miles away from Earth. That's 472 kilometers for all our
stone's throw.
Yeah, right there.
It's not that
Just
far.
right there.
It has a radius of 1,079.4 miles. It is the 5th largest natural satellite in the solar system, and it is the biggest when compared with its host body, with the Earth. So it is like compared to the size of its, its orbiting body or whatever. It's the largest, which is kind of strange. It's unique in the entire solar system.
But it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. We're a size positive podcast. Okay, so we like you the way you are, Moon. All right. Man?
It is weird. That is one of the weirder facts, though. That like that's the ratio between the moon and Earth is it being so big.
Yeah,
because how it doesn't really. That's one of the massive things about this theory is like how the moon got there, and we're gonna get there in a bit. Some more theories, but it's so weird how it's so big and it's such close proximity to Earth.
Yep. We do know that the moon does help stabilize our planet's, angular wobble that it has on its axis, and actually they help stabilize our climate to some extent. It does affect it affects things like our tides and all this kind of neat stuff. One of the things that is, like Zell said already, is scientists are still debating over how old our moon is and how it formed. So there are a couple of leading theories about how our moon formed, but none of them really, some fit kind of models, but there's still bits and pieces that are missing, and we're not quite sure where it came from. So
the moon, without the moon, this planet would not be able to have complex life. I don't think that's even like debated anymore because just holding the planet at the same axis point pretty much was a very 1 degree like every 1,000 years or something. Because if without it and if the planet started like tumbling, you would have no way to like regulate seasons or weather. It would just be fucking wild all over the place.
Sure, some scientists have thrown out the theory that the way that the moon interacts with Earth on like a gravitational scale, like pushing and pulling of the moon, affecting tides, affecting geographic formation, things like that, actually jump started or aided in the creation of life. That it kind of stirred things up to some extent, and perhaps
the moon acting as just a meat shield for asteroid impacts.
Yes, it is our big shield. That's why we're not getting slammed with meteors and asteroids all the time, because it's gravity actually. Well, yeah, a lot of stuff does hit the moon, but also the moon kind of throws stuff off of like their trajectory, like away from us.
Yeah, not necessarily attracts it, but pushes it off enough that it doesn't directly hit Earth.
Sure. Yeah. So the biggest theory, or the leading theory that the scientists are kind of still trying to prove of how our moon formed is the first one I'll talk about is the impact theory, that there was some scientists say something around like a Mars-sized body collided with the Earth in its early formation sometime around, they're kind of estimating 4.5 billion years ago. And so the debris from the Earth and this thing that slammed into Earth, and I think a lot of scientists refer to it as Theia, this mystery body that may have collided with Earth.
Yeah. AKA Planet X.
AKA Planet X or planetesimal or something. They accumulated around Earth, like it spun around Earth, and then accreted into the moon as we see it today. That was still in a kind of a molten state. And then some scientists say as recently as 100 million years ago, there was still like magma on the surface of the moon. And then this ended up like crystallizing and then forming what is now the lunar crust.
Now, so that's the theory of like the impact theory, which I think makes sense. And the other theory is like most moons either form because of that, like they get captured, and like the impact between those two bodies ended up so that one body gets captured, they get like locked together. Or like moons form like it's like an accretion disk, which is like the dust of creation that everything slowly forms. But that doesn't make sense in the theory because after, like the rocks they brought home, Braden, from the moon.
From the moon.
The mythical moon.
From Florida.
The way they date them, they actually date that the moon rocks are actually older, so it makes sense that it came from a different body. So that's how they kind of deduce it down to like some giant celestial impact. And part of the reason they think that too is that it would have hit where the Pacific Ocean probably was, just because the mass of like gouge out of that side of the planet. That's one of the theories. But
so we have data about the moon. The information about the moon has mostly been gathered through the bits of exploration that humans have done since pretty much the end, early 1960s. The first moon exploration mission was actually by the Soviet Union, and they sent Luna 1 and Luna 2 in 1959. The U.S., in preparation for their landing on the moon, staging of the landing on the moon, sent actually 3 robotic missions to prepare for the human exploration. You had the Rangers sent in 1961 through 1965. Those were impact probes, so they sent those and they just crashed them into the moon. You had the lunar orbiters from 1966 and 1967 to actually map the surface of the moon and then find an appropriate landing site for the human astronauts. And then you had your surveyors in 1966 and 1968 which were actually soft landers. So they kind of just, put down on the moon, not just slam into there. And then you had July 20th, 1969, the Apollo missions started their landing on the moon, and those went on, the Apollo missions 1969 to 1972. And since then, other countries have been to the moon. Not after the United States missions, you don't have any more humans visiting to the moon. Up until now, there's plans to go back. We've already kind of talked about that a couple times, but you have
it's common.
So you have a number of other space agencies besides NASA, which have visited the moon until now. You have European space agencies been there, Japan, China, India. China landed 2 more rovers, the most recent one being the Chang'e one, which landed on the far side of the moon in 2019, or the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
So from all this stuff that we've gathered about the moon, there are still weird things about the moon that we don't fully understand, or that seem really strange. One of the things that is probably people say, like we talked about, the dark side of the moon, or what people consider the dark side of the moon.
Far side, yeah.
Right. The far side of the moon would be more accurate, because the moon does have a day cycle. The sun does touch all parts of the moon, except only one face of the moon actually faces the earth. It doesn't rotate like other bodies, like other celestial bodies. It just stays in. It's tidally locked.
Tidal locked. Right. Yeah.
So
to me, that aspect of the moon is always like the most intriguing to me, that there's this celestial body that is perfectly still, but yet rotating the earth, like not even the slightest turn or nothing. Perfectly still in space.
Right.
Getting pummeled by asteroids. Right? Getting pummeled, like you said, it's what would you say, a meat shield?
Yeah.
Right? You think that one of these things would have skipped across the side of it or something, right? And just
more of a cheese shield.
Yeah, cheese shield.
More accurate. It's a cheese shield.
But you think something would have just shifted it or hit it, and then it would just continually spin.
Well, it just,
even if it was ever so slightly.
That's part of the craziness, is that, say it was formed out of, we're going with this theory for now, that it was formed out of a collision. Like the amount of energy that collision would have had, like it doesn't make, that's why a lot of people think this is like, it's hard to explain, is it doesn't make sense why, like after that collision, it became tidally locked. It's still like heavily debated. Like why not spin slowly? Why be perfectly locked? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's still unclear. Scientists are still fighting about it, trying to figure out or try to fit models or theories into models that would explain why the moon essentially stopped spinning. There's some evidence.
This is badass.
Yeah, there's
whatever's in its way. It doesn't matter. It's not going to spin. It's not going to move.
I don't dance.
That. No.
We do know that there are earthquakes or moonquakes that happen on the moon pretty frequently. So frequently that scientists are actually kind of at an impasse at this point, or they're trying to develop or figure out what materials would be best to build certain like habitation on the moon. Like what could you build on the moon that would be or what materials could you use that can stretch and flex and bend and not completely collapse under these, which are some of these are pretty frequent occurrences. You actually have like 3 different types of seismic events that we know about. We have the deep moon quakes, which occur halfway to the center of the moon. And these scientists consider them to be relatively small. You would probably compare them to an earthquake that probably has about a magnitude of 1 or less. Then you have these other ones. You have the shallow moonquakes, which are probably about a magnitude 5, but don't occur as frequently. And then you have the meteor impacts, which can cause, can occur. And then these have a large range of magnitudes because that would depend on the size of, a meteorite, what was smacking into the moon.
Right.
So we do know that there is water on the moon, which is a big change from a while ago. We never thought there was water on the moon, but now we think there's more water on the moon than we thought before.
We talked about it on Space News, like just in the summer, how they think there was like untold amounts of water or ice, I should say, under especially at the caps.
Sure. Yeah. So there's evidence supporting that there is large amounts of water on the moon. And we just have to figure out, scientists are being like, well, if there's water on the moon, we just need to figure out how to get at it. And then that would definitely aid.
Water on the moon. Yeah. Then there's life on the moon.
Well, yeah.
Then there's aliens on the moon.
How to get at it. If you've been there before, you just walk over to it.
I mean, Nestle is already planning their colony, their space colony up there. So once they heard about that.
Well, obviously, Nestle's in charge of big water.
They've already filed for a patent for moon water.
Water. Yeah, it's fucking moon juice, man.
Charge a fortune for it.
Water's all over that shit.
And then
heavily irradiated water.
Delicious.
Yeah. So now you get to this idea that there's this theory going around in certain circles that the moon perhaps is actually hollow. Because of all these strange things about the moon. There are so many things that we don't understand about the moon. You have this idea of the hollow moon or the spaceship moon that exist. This theory seems to have come
from Star Wars.
Well, yeah. No, before Star Wars.
No, before Star Wars.
The Death Star?
But I wouldn't be surprised if that's where what Dan's about to talk about is where Star Wars got the inspiration for Death Star. But
the Death Star. So in 1970, you had 2 Soviet scientists, Michael Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov, which came
more accent, Dan.
Yeah,
Alexander Sherbakov. I guess I can't get my Russian accent real.
Alexander Sherbakov.
Sherbakov. Yeah, no good.
Sherbert.
So then they were a part of what was then known as the Soviet Academy of Sciences, and they advanced this hypothesis that the moon was actually a spaceship that had been created by perhaps unknown beings.
That's fucking
I don't know how much of a hypothesis it was, or if it was just them smoking weed and he goes drinking vodka and he's like, yeah, what if moon is filled with alien? And then they're like, yeah. Let's go with it.
Well, I mean,
it's more of a fucking hollow head theory than a hollow moon theory.
No, think about it. Give it a shot. We talked about how it's like, why is the moon why is it tidal locked? Why is it so big? Spaceship was put there on purpose.
That makes way more sense, because if you think for a second that if you were terraforming a planet and imagine Earth was it's in the habitable zone, right? Everything looks good, except it's fucking spinning. The weather's wild, right? You have no seasons. It's hot. It's cold. It's all over the place. And you're like, hey, we can just park one of our little pretend moon bases here, observe the planet, let it sit there and, let life do its thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
The whole planet's getting devastated by space debris. The weather is wild because it has no axis. You're an advanced alien species who've been here for God knows how long. You drive in your planet-sized spaceships, looking for the right planet, park it out in front, and then you set up shop. This is why it's tidal locked. The tidal lock has nothing to do with anything except that they can park on the back and we can't see them.
So, like, they're doing it because our atmosphere is good, or are they doing it because it's like a fucking Truman Show for aliens? Like, they're just hanging out in this fucking spaceship with telescopes watching us do shit. What's going on here?
Well, you could say both, probably.
Okay.
You could say,
I can dig it.
You could say that maybe the planet is so like Earth, like an Earth is super rare, let's say. And when they find one, they try and advance life on it, or they do that, but also play science experiments on the planet as they watch from the moon.
Okay. Now, I know we're kind of getting a little off topic, but I love it right now. I like this a lot because if you think of if the moon was placed there in order to terraform a planet, like that's what they did. They're like, what do we do? Like this planet here it's in the zone. If we put a moon there, right, we can observe and report, keep tabs, and just, kind of report back when this planet is ready for our species or whatnot, right? And then if you think about like maybe we are just like essentially like humans, we're just like the byproduct of like life just growing. And as we've created like nuclear weapons and stuff, these things like obviously the moon, they're spying us from the moon. When they see us start blowing up bombs, they're like, all right, listen, you filthy apes. Like, we've been working on terraforming this planet for thousands of years, and you guys are not blowing bombs. And so they've now come in and been in contact because
the old smarten up.
Yeah, the old smarten up, right? Like, yes, you're on this planet, but we're making it for us. Or maybe it's just like a science experiment, right? For a larger civilization. We're just a petri dish, essentially.
Giant ant farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there with a microscope, or a fucking magnifying glass, letting shit pop off.
That's where that theory goes. But Dan, what else do people?
I think we need to relax on our theories already.
No,
we gotta get.
Yeah,
we're gonna
get deep. So they started it. Dan, what else? Why do people think it's hollow? What are the reasons?
So another reason, or another piece of evidence that people claim supports the idea of a hollow Earth is that you hear this. You hear this thrown around all the time. You hear when the moon was struck, it rang like a bell, or the quote to some effect. It sounds like that. It's always like the moon rang like a bell.
It didn't actually
when
ring.
The moon was struck, it struck like a bell. That's amore.
That's terrible. That was terrible. You had the perfect opportunity to go bang a gong, get it on.
What?
Isn't that that's a way better?
He started with when the moon.
No.
Yeah, that's what he said. It says you don't say when the bang the gong, get it on.
No, I was just saying that's I like that song better. More fitting.
You don't like being serenaded while you eat pizza?
You wasted your reference of that song then on Andrew's joke.
Yeah, I did.
Now you can't use it.
I mean, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie.
Like a big.
That's more.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
So that quote or that kind of statement stems from the Apollo 12 experiment where they crashed when they crashed the lunar module into the moon. It was part of an experiment because the Apollo missions had placed seismometers to measure the seismic activity in the moon. One interesting thing is they place seismometers, but that's only actually in a relatively small area of the moon because you can't, drive everywhere around the moon in your little lunar lander and thing. But they put down these things. So in order to get measurements to, give us some data about the moon, how the moon works or whatever, they smashed lunar modules into it to get, moonquakes. And so they said that these moonquake tremors lasted up to 55 minutes, that the vibrations caused by the impact of like Apollo 13's Saturn rocket booster, which is equivalent to 11 tons of TNT going off, actually left the moon, quaking for 3 hours and 20 minutes. This is the same equipment showed that.
Like you can just imagine the little needle that they use for like the Richter scale when they show earthquakes. You can just imagine that going for an hour.
Right.
And I think even after, didn't they drop an even bigger rocket and it rang for like almost 3 hours or something?
Right. That's what did I just say that? The Saturn rocket.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So
the equivalence of 11 tons of TNT.
So you kind of get an idea that the ringing like a bell thing doesn't really refer to like it making a sound or making it hollow. It's that the reverberations within the moon, it just kept shaking, right?
Similar to how a bell
Similar to a bell.
shakes.
So it's like an analogy. Well, it is an analogy, but it refers to that, not the sound that it made or that it had a hollow sound like a bell. It was that the moon actually reverberates much more than the Earth. And some scientists can explain this by saying that, vibrations from earthquakes on Earth usually die in half a minute. Right. Even the longest ones don't last longer than 2 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
So
isn't that something to do with like the water or something like that?
Right. So so there's a thing called what they said it's called like chemical weathering. And so within the Earth, like the water absorbs or it weakens stone and then expands the structure of some materials and minerals. And then the energy that gets through the structure, it just kind of absorbs it and deadens the vibrations. So then you don't have as much like the moon, whereas the moon is dry, it's cool. And from what we can tell, it's mostly rigid. So it's just like a chunk of stone, or it seems to be like a solid chunk of stone. So the vibrations just set it vibrating and it lasts for a really long time. It just keeps going and until it wears itself out, but for a long time.
Or it has a steel shell.
Sure.
Because so this is theory number 2 on Hollow Moon is
I thought it was a cheese shield.
The outside is the outside is cheese, and then
it's a spongy cheese. Yeah. So yeah, you have an outside cheese layer,
right?
Okay.
So something covering the inner ship,
sure.
Mm-hmm. And that's why the asteroid, like the impacts that hit the moon, seem to be similar depths of craters, and they're saying that I guess that there's only so much rock, or what we know of rock. But as underneath of it, that is the actual steel, because I don't know, I'm not sure what because they did find some, like a lot of weird metals on the moon. That's not anything like on Earth, but I was trying to put that together of why they think it was a steel shell.
I thought it was something to do with that, because it's interesting that most of the impact craters are very similar depth, that there's some sort of like whatever's hitting can only hit to a certain depth.
Right.
Because then it's hitting the solid structure.
So that's the top layer is just a facade to make it look like a planet.
Yeah. Or let's say if this is something this big, that for a second, imagine that's a craft that big. Would it not, like that mass would have its own gravitational pull? So is it too much to say that like over the course of them moving it from wherever it has, it's essentially collected space dust? You know what I mean? Like just layers and layers and layers of space dust.
Well, just the gravity of the ship itself kept getting struck by stuff, and that stuff just kind of layered up,
breaks apart, and then eventually settles onto the surface.
If we're talking in the span of eons here, or millions or billions of years, of them to fly the spaceship across, or however they got it here. Maybe it was like some type of time rift or anything. But yeah, maybe I like that, because that would be a lot. It'd be a lot of dirt to backfill onto it and make.
Yeah,
you need a little help.
So it's either space dust or like really sweet space camo.
Yes.
Yeah. Space camo. I like that.
Yeah, space camo. It's cool. And space camo looks like like someone who used to be like a teenager with really bad zits, and then they picked them and grew up to have pockmarks all over their face.
Yes. And so
Fucking Accutane.
speaking of pockmarks, one of the biggest ones and largest ones on the moon is the South Pole Aitken Basin, which is essentially a giant impact crater on the far side of the moon, and it expands approximately 2,000 kilometers along its long axis.
Jesus.
And it is actually the largest impact crater that we know about in the solar system.
That's bananas.
Right. And so
Not if that's where the propulsion device is for the ship.
Ooh.
So just recently, it was like last year, 2019, we got a better look at the South Pole Aitken Basin thanks to the Chinese rover Chang'e. And what they detected under there was extremely interesting because they found something within that basin, within that crater. They said that there seems to be a mass, a solid mass, that is probably about 300 kilometers beneath the surface of the moon. And it is like, it's denser than the rest of the moon. It doesn't seem to be like a part of the moon. So it is something that either the leading theory
Like
is
a foreign body.
the leading theory is that they've used computer simulations to possibly model an asteroid impact, that perhaps this asteroid had some type of iron nickel core and pretty much slammed into up some sort of, it could have been an asteroid or like a planetesimal or like a protoplanet that slammed into the moon either during its kind of like magma period or something, or during its early formation. And this iron nickel core actually lodged itself within the moon and never fell apart or got melted or anything like that, like you normally would see with other planets that would just become part of the planet. But this mass is just sitting there in that basin, 200 miles beneath the surface. And they don't really, we don't know 100% what it is.
It's vibranium.
Sure. Yes.
Vibranium.
It's a lot of vibranium. I think it's
meteoroid.
People say when they talk about it in some of the videos and things like that, they said it's small or relatively small, but it's still like the size of Hawaii or something, like one of the large island of Hawaii. So it's pretty big.
That's a big chunk of rock.
Right. Or Alien Space Base or Transformers Ark slammed in there.
Or cheese.
Or that's the propulsion system. And the moon is not necessarily maybe a hollow spaceship. Maybe it was just put there and that's the propulsion system used. And that still used to terraform the planet, but it's not artificial. They just moved a rock from one place to another.
Right. And actually, scientists have actually talked about, or, it's been discussion about when the idea of space colonization comes up. I've read in some articles in this where scientists have kind of argued, or they put forth the idea that perhaps the most cost effective or perhaps the most efficient way to begin colonization would be to actually hollow out larger bodies or celestial bodies. So if you had a large asteroid or a thing like a protoplanet, like a moon, you could actually just hollow it out and then you would just push it to wherever you wanted to go instead of building a giant ship. This would kind of probably hinge on the idea that if it took a long time to get where you're going, if you're trying to build like a generational ship or something like that, it'd probably be easier just to, to build your ship within the moon or the asteroid and then just kind of push it wherever you want it to go. You don't have to build this entire structure or the entire, an entire giant.
Unless they like tow it, like imagine they tow it like some sort of intergalactic tugboat and that metal, like that chunk of metal is essentially what was the anchored it as they tow it, whether it be through some sort of field or whatever, but that was how they latched on to the moon to get it where it needed to be.
So you're using some sort of powerful magnetic force or something like that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't even have to be actual like a cable. It could be like a magnet or a gravitational beam or some type of tractor beam just pulling it along.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as using so we talked about it in the summer as well, as they found those giant lava tubes on the moon.
Mm-hmm, they did.
And they're like you could like house full cities So it'd be way easier instead of like building stuff on the surface where it could get pummeled or your like direct line of radiation. You use a natural cave, which is it's probably pretty well sealed. You seal one end up or something, right?
And they're actually, I think they said they would be somewhat more ideal than because they would probably have better structural integrity than lava tubes on Earth because they'd be less prone to collapsing in on themselves due to the reduced gravity of the moon.
And you could also, like, you could just go in there and just blow up a bunch of circus tents, essentially, like on the inside to form into the cave.
Right. And you bring your moon bears and your moon elephants and your moon clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have
and then you got your bouncy castle
set up for a good old party.
Moon Circus?
Moon Circus.
Oh, man.
That's a dope name for a band, actually.
Fucking
Fuck, I'm writing that down.
Moon
Somebody write that down.
Circus.
I call it new band name.
That's Dan's new band name, Moon Circus.
Moon Circus.
I like Lunar Circus better.
That's pretty good too.
Now, I mean, I like all this. I've kind of got a crazy one that I was working with today, but I might need to go take a little puff before I try to explain it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll have a quick fill up on a beer break here, and we'll get back to Braden's theory. We'll be right back.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place. The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
All right, we're back. All right, so since we're talking crazy talk already, like we're pretending that we've been to the moon, I was thinking about it. I was having lots of thoughts about it earlier today and on the weekend, and it brought me back to. I was thinking that if we go back to the Nazis and, you know, their fabled mythical weapon that they had, the Glocke, right? Which was the Nazi belt.
Gotta bring it back to the Nazis, man. You got it.
Listen, hear me out.
Bring it back to the Nazis.
I listened to you when you were telling me about all these lunar landings.
I didn't say nothing about
right?
lunar landing.
But, you know, we hear about De Glocke, and what was De Glocke, right? It's the Nazi bell, right? That's what we know. Like, we don't really know what it was.
Yeah, here we go.
We have no idea.
Or what it did.
Or if it existed. But what I'm saying is that I think the De Glocke, I think when the Nazis were really into their, like, you know, their mythical arts and stuff, they were collecting scrolls and, you know, old passages, like they were really into that kind of stuff, that they just were deciphering like languages about some sort of bell or some sort of like reverberation. And so that's where we kind of get the Nazi bell from. And why that's important here is because you had all these scientists working on this and translating it. And so then when they crashed the first spacecraft in and they see that, they're like, they see the reverberations or whatever. What scientist takes a real interest in this?
Well, he's
Werner von
Braun.
Braun.
Already the head
Werner
of it.
von Braun.
Yeah.
Oh man, maybe that's why he was so into
I like this.
getting to the moon.
He's very interested now because he's going, I've had privy information of like all this like ancient knowledge and stuff that we were collecting.
Backtrack. Terrible. You got to be Werner von Braun right now. You can't be talking about all this in your normal voice.
I can't.
Let's go.
Listen,
you got to.
I'm too high.
No, you got to. Come on.
I can either try to keep it together to explain this.
Das ist und weak. That's what that is. Fucking weak.
So Werner von Braun, he's read all these texts and he's privy to all this information. And when he hears about this reverberation and someone says like, man, it rang like a bell. He like
light bulb.
he gets like a light bulb moment, right? And he's like, holy fuck, all these things that I was reading when we were trying to make this like this time travel device or something, I was reading about the moon, right? That's where the secret is. So what I think back in the day, like in ancient times, right? What's that era you always like to talk about, Zell?
Oh, Younger Dryas?
Younger Dryas or something? Who knows? Yeah. One of those times. But we've been to Chichen Itza, and the one thing that they constantly
Dryas,
talked
older
about.
Dryas, teenage Dryas. Yeah, I don't know. What
just Dryas? A lot of Dryas.
One of the Dryas.
One of the Dryas.
So when we were at Chichen Itza, right? Everything about that pyramid was about the acoustics of it. And it lined up with the stars and something, and they said that people used to chant and it would echo. And I thought if they were so interested in doing these kind of like lining up with the stars and stuff, that maybe when they knew that when the full moon was overhead, these pyramids were devices to amplify sound, and they would shoot essentially their sound into the moon and reverberate it into the galaxy. Like it was like some sort of communication device. Like it's like the first leg of it.
It's a beacon. Galactic
it's like a beacon for sound, right? Like it reverberates. So maybe the moon, like all these earthquakes that we don't know about, we're like, why is it having so many? That's stuff coming through from the other side. We just haven't figured out how to put the messages together. Boom! Okay, that was my high theory. Those are my high thoughts.
Good theory. I
got a lot here.
Only problem is that sound doesn't travel through space. It is a vacuum.
Nobody can hear you scream, man. We learned that shit. Yeah. Aliens.
Dan, frequencies travel. Some type of, it could be shooting light frequency at the moon, making it reverberate.
I'm just saying we have to modify it a little bit. I got stuff.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because Zell's got stuff.
I got stuff. You started with Nazis and it ended up at the Mayans. So I want to take it back. I want to
something about the Glocka.
Some strong weed, man. That's some strong fucking weed.
I told you. I could only tap in because I was thinking about it while I was on this weed. I was like, the only way I can get back to remembering all this is to tap back into the source code. So that's what I had to do.
I'm going back to, because Werner von Braun?
Werner von Braun.
Yeah.
Was it Werner
Brown?
Or is it Brown?
Yeah.
It's Brown.
It's Brown.
Von Braun.
It's Brown.
Anyway, so he's top Nazi rocket scientist. They lose, but he knows
the greatest Nazi scientist in all of the world.
I'm top Nazi scientist.
So the Nazis get beat, the Allies beat them. Von Braun knew, Braden, this is your theory. He knew something about the moon that was some type of like ET device, like a sound device, let's say. But he didn't get a chance to finish it because his rocket program was still relatively new. And he had this opportunity to bring that program to the States. And through his fucking big ass brain there, gets the Nazis, even though America, but I mean, it's a Nazi scientist, so a little bit of Nazi went to the moon at that time.
What? A little bit of Nazi went to the moon?
Well, I'm saying like it was a Nazi ingenuity, like one scientist who got them to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm saying like a little bit of Nazis, like a couple of Nazis went to the moon. I was like,
What?
Like really tiny Nazis though, like a little bit of Nazis.
Well, that's another theory. But so I'm saying that he had this theory, he had Braden's theory when he was in Germany, came to America and fulfilled it. And whatever the secret was they found on the moon, they got what they found, or they found what they were looking for, and they didn't have to go back because now that unleashed technology of secret space program, anti-gravitic craft, and everything.
What if it was that monolith that what's his name said he saw on there?
Oh, that picture.
Are you talking about, was it Buzz Aldrin?
It was Buzz Aldrin saw a fucking monolith on there.
No,
Maybe
he said that about the moon of Mars, which is another mystery we've talked about before.
We talked about that before.
But
I tried.
Hey, okay. No, you had moon, you had monolith, which is current with the times.
I heard moon and monolith and Younger Dryas.
Well, we'll get to Younger Dryas. Don't you worry.
Wait,
soon.
I'm talking about the teenage Dryas.
Anyway,
the awkward years.
Infant Dryas.
The awkward years of the teenage Dryas.
The angst was experienced.
Emo period.
He had
the
a Zell
emo
phase.
Dryas. Can we talk about the emo Dryas?
Yeah.
And that was the cold spell of 1,000 years. Anyways, okay. Turn the dial back from that theory.
Are we still going theories?
Yeah, we got there, dude.
We still got theories?
We got theories going.
Okay, listen to this. This is something. It's probably fucking so off and ridiculous.
Perfect.
Are you kidding me?
But,
did you just
so you know how?
Did you not just hear what I said?
To Braden like 2 minutes ago?
I like it. Dude, listen. When we did the fucking Project Paperclip or Operation Paperclip, my theory said that like that information needed to exist for a reason. And I think that fucking Von Braun was responsible for that and kept that shit alive and leaked those Nazi scientists so they could get anyways. That's not what my theory is right now. Listen. Okay. So at the beginning, Dan's explaining how the moon is the reason why Earth is the way it is right now, right? It's the reason why we don't wobble fucking everywhere. It's the reason why we have seasons and tides and all that type of shit, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, we need this moon to exist the way we currently exist, right?
Yeah.
So what if one of these advanced civilizations that inhabited Earth, you know what I mean, knew that they needed this fucking moon and they created the moon to make Earth livable?
Yeah, 100%.
Did we already say that?
Yeah, I thought we said that. Talked about
Oh,
this
really?
earlier. Yeah.
Holy
You're
fuck,
literally
that's
telling.
funny.
What strain are you on?
That's fucking funny.
I'm like, I
Have we
like
talked
this
about that
theory
already?
because we talked about this theory 25 minutes ago.
Are you serious? Where the fuck have I been?
You know what? It just took Andrew 20 minutes to put the theory together. That's what it was.
That's fucking funny.
But
Fuck,
When did
that's
we talk
great.
about that?
I like how you
Was that in the notes?
I like how you got there on your own, though.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's
The
fucked
aliens
up.
put it there to terraform the planet to have life because life is rare. And yeah, we talked about that was
Oh yeah, I heard terraform.
Yeah.
I picked up on that word. I just didn't know what it meant.
And then
Now
he
I'm
slowly
fucking
put it
picking up
together.
on it. Yeah,
You got
That's
there.
a good
bad.
theory, dude. I love it.
Okay. What happens if the Earth, or what happens if the moon is like some type of like escape thing for the uber fucking wealthy rich people? So when the Earth implodes, they travel to the moon
there's a resort up there.
so they can fuck off. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like the whole, what's in the moon, man? What's in the moon? It's a fucking resort for all the uber rich people with hookers and blow, and everybody's having a good time.
Moon Coke.
That was the real reason for the Apollo missions was
hookers.
to establish the foundation.
Exactly.
And they've been
Yeah.
sending people back ever since through the secret space program.
There you go. That's the escape fucking.
Yeah,
that's the escape pod.
Listen,
Fuck, I can't believe that. I thought I was so fucking clever with my idea, and it's
good.
like
It's good.
fucking
You got-
bullshit.
you got
It's a great idea.
I
I'm done
don't
with this.
think that there is currently like an ultra rich retreat, but honestly, we're not too far off from it.
I don't know why you would really want at this point. I don't know why you would really want to live on the moon. Like it would. Yeah, there's the radiation. There's the moon dust, which like clogs everything, and apparently is very fine. And like if you got some in your lungs, it's like breathing glass. That would suck. Also, like you would have to deal with the fact that the reduced gravity on the planet would eventually like fuck your body up.
Oh, they have a pill for that.
Yeah, got a pill for everything. They got the same shit that Mike Tyson is taking. They're on the same juice as Mike Tyson. He's doing fine. He just beat up Roy Jones.
What about how come we don't have a bunch of jacked ass rich people?
Not that we know about. They're on the
Yeah.
moon.
Have you
Have you seen Jeff Bezos
that's
before he
yeah.
started Amazon?
Look at the
He's
rock.
preparing. They're preparing right now in front of our eyes.
Hey, here's a question. Has anybody seen Jeff Bezos and The Rock in the same room together?
Oh,
I think Jeff Bezos morphed into The
He
Rock
just slowly
after
came out of
taking his
nowhere?
drug. He evolved. He evolved. Jeff Bezos has evolved into The Rock.
prove him wrong.
He's
Maybe not involved in. Maybe cloned himself into the Rock. There's two Jeff Bezos. One's just the Rock.
I'm so fucking shook right now that
I like your first. I like your first theory
No,
better.
I feel so fucking stupid right now. It's
It was great.
ridiculous.
I was like listening.
This is painful, man.
Dude, you actually sold me right until the final line, and then I was like, "Hey, didn't we talk about this?"
Oh my god, I've played way too many contact sports, like fucking way too many.
Hey, it was a great theory. You came up with it on your own, or did you?
I thought so.
Okay, so now there's a lot of theories. We've talked the main theories, but let's go with now. Let's say if aliens are on the moon, or they moved the moon, or whatever they did to the moon to put it there, where'd they come from? Why'd they do it? Let's go with more of those theories.
One of the theories is that they could have come from Mars. That Mars was, if you want to go with the theory or, the hypothesis that perhaps Mars was habitable at some point, and perhaps there was a civilization, an intelligent civilization on there, an advanced civilization.
Thought we knew this. Thought the Templars were on Mars. Did we just fucking talk
That's
about
the next
this?
book. It's not out yet.
So yeah, I'll let Freddie Silva talk about that one next time. But if you go with that, if you make the assumption that there is an intelligence, perhaps whatever catastrophe that befell the Martian planet in order to strip off its atmosphere and cause it to become the irradiated red wasteland that it is today, perhaps those intelligences decided that the moon would be either a stopover. It would be in a place where like, okay, we need to stop here with our, establish a moon base here on this planet, or perhaps it was already there. Perhaps they had already started exploring our solar system and they had put a base on the moon established because they're like, okay, our closest neighbor over there, Earth, seems to be similar to ours because we do have evidence to support that perhaps the Martian surface was at some time the environment was similar to Earth, having water, perhaps maybe plants, even things like that, and running water, whatever, similar atmosphere. So perhaps they were already planning on exploring, or perhaps they were already beginning to think of colonizing our planet at some point. And so then they just, they were on the moon already, or they were in the process of going to the moon. They've established a base there. And then, catastrophe happens. They get the people off the Martian surface that they could get off. Whatever, Battlestar Galactica, we're all here now.
I disagree, only because I think we have some evidence on what could possibly be happening. I mean, we've had all these military generals come out and say there's a galactic federation. Just like we have all these different countries, who don't get along, but we agree on one thing, like the International Space Station for research. That's like a peaceful area. This same thing for this galactic federation. There's all these alien species that they don't all get along and they don't all like each other, but they have these science facilities like the moon to, watch us and terraform the planet. It's basically like a big galactic federation seeing if they can terraform planets. They're in the process of practicing.
It's kind of weird though. Remember when that Israeli general was talking about this galactic
It was like a
organization?
Scientist, not a general.
Satellite scientist. And then the other general that you're talking about was the Canadian one.
Yeah.
But remember how the Israeli guy said it's only the United States and Israel that are involved in this?
I don't know if he said it like that or he meant that I know of. Like he knew that the US and Israel were involved. I don't know if he was like, it's only us, no one else.
Well, Canada gets lumped in with the US a lot. So maybe he meant to say us, but he's like, they're, it's part of it. Same.
Our allies. Yeah.
Same thing. Potato.
Yeah.
Same shit.
But that's what I think that too.
Well, I like that theory too, but
that's just a question.
On Dan's theory though, what about this? What if, Mars, whatever happened to Mars was not a fast process and Martian people learned to live with like the decreasing atmosphere and more rugged conditions. And they say it happened over thousands of years. They became accustomed more to like a moon climate than an Earth climate. And they had to live on the moon for a while they terraformed before they could leave.
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
There would be you could probably support that by saying that the moon's reduced gravity would probably be easier on them than the Earth's like increased gravity. Like it would probably be easier to make a transition from there or to there.
Well, you set up there as like your forward operating base as you prepare to enter a planet with higher gravity, different atmosphere, and all the rest that would go.
Yeah, but I would think that if this happened, millions of years ago, that's the only kind of hitch I have in these things. If you go with the terraforming idea that they're somehow terraforming our planet, like why are they letting us run it into shit? Like not just with atomic weapons and shit, but other problems. And
we are the Martians.
I'm not saying like some people say like, oh, like the atmosphere, you're gunking it up with CO2, we're raising the things. I was like, no, what about all the fucking plastic in the ocean? There's a trash island that floats around the Pacific. Like nobody wants that. If you're reptilian or anybody, you don't fucking want a goddamn ocean filled with nothing, like all the plants and animals dying off. Like what?
No, here's the thing. It does make sense if you have an agreement in this Galactic Federation that this is a research facility, we're going to try to do this. And you have like a do not interfere with the process, right? And no one expected us. We're unexpected. So now it's like you have these outlying countries that have little more or outlying members, the short grays, the tall grays, the reptilians, all these people who are a little bit more powerful in the Galactic Federation are breaching that because they're like, holy shit, these things are crazy. We didn't think we could create this. And so they're coming down and they're kind of meddling when they're not supposed to. It's literally a research facility.
Yeah, I like that.
It's what it's meant to be.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
We're back to that. We're back to a science experiment research facility.
Truman Show.
Reality, the Milky Way's best reality show, Earth.
Dude, it probably would be.
Oh my God. Especially 2020 would be
was
fucking
the
Civilization
amazing
stop being civilized
television.
and get real.
Yeah.
Earth.
Makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised.
I would think that we would be more of a joke than anything else. It would just be like, it would be, their version of Sir David Attenborough narrating our insane lives of what we do.
The destructive nature of humanity.
Just Zell shitting in an alley.
They've got that on tape. That's on there forever. It's been broadcast throughout the universe.
They got Zell's fucking half Hortons in Pasadena. Jesus.
It's one of the top viewed videos on Galactic YouTube.
Braden painted the side of a subway station.
Oh, that's true too. The man who shat out COVID.
Yeah.
Took a shit. COVID started in Canada not far after.
This, well, I'll say it now. When did we do the Ouija 3 episode? Was it in November 2019?
Not sure. Don't remember.
Yeah, it was Pod Week last year.
Block that out of my brain.
Which was November,
As far as I'm certain, it didn't happen.
October last year, yeah.
I just remember you saying, I open the portal to the gates of hell, and then we never closed the board, and look how things have turned out.
I
for
did
us.
say I open all portals to the gates of hell, and then I did not change.
Way to go, Zell.
Whoops.
Way to fucking go.
There's a bunch of people playing Ouija board that night. I'm not taking full credit.
Yeah, but they probably closed it properly. They didn't leave it up in the studio with the planchette on it, just begging like, please, Zazuba, or whoever the fuck you're trying to raise from hell to curse everybody.
We're getting way off topic now. Why don't we should we do final thoughts?
Sure.
What's your final thoughts on the
moon?
All right,
if I'm stretching for theories, because obviously there's not a lot to this, but if you're going for theories, I don't think the moon is hollow for many reasons, but not saying that there's not, it's proven that it's filled with volcanic like lava tubes that could house civilization. It is in a precarious spot or a very convenient spot for our planet. It seems too close for how big the moon is to the planet. So if there was a super intelligent God species, let's call them God, the all powerful, they are God. Every God is this God, let's say. And that's what they're doing. They're terraforming civilization and they create life. And they've become that advanced that they pushed this rock to this planet because like this will be perfect. We'll check back in, 500 million years and there's the first, now we got our first life climbed out of water, whatever the theory of evolution, however it started exactly. And then, millions and millions of years later, we got humans. And this is all part of the plan of this species, of this God race. God ETs.
Precursors.
Not hollow, solid body, but was pushed here on purpose. If you're going for terraforming and like a all-powerful civilization, why not? Next.
Did Braden turn into a Picasso painting over there?
Yeah, I don't know what he's
I've got the same issue plaguing Cyberpunk 2077 release. Slow render. I like that a lot, but if we're going right down to what the moon is, it was just a copy paste from another moon into our digital world. So
simulation,
the hologram.
It's just that's why it doesn't move because they're like, we don't have to worry about how much detail we putting into this.
Lazy coding.
Yeah, we got to make them all spin. Fuck it, just leave a couple.
Yeah, leave them. Title lock it. Sure.
I definitely don't think it's hollow. We have, for many reasons, like Zell said, but one of them mostly is math. There's math, the way you call it the point of inertia, where you basically calculate.
It's called math.
It's the math. The math proves that it's not hollow. So I'm going to say it's not hollow because of math. You can look at point of inertia if you want to look it up and all the formulas that are therein. There's math that
Gets
says
complex
it's not
real
hollow.
quick.
Or if there is something, if it is hollow, the density inside would have to be unrealistically, like unless there's a mini black hole inside the moon. I don't know, maybe there is, but then it would have to be something like that. But I wouldn't go with like it's an artificial creation, because it's like if you have the ability to create a structure that large, that massive, that affects a planet, so and you're able to make the calculations that it needs to sit at a certain distance and able to enable perhaps it makes some significance that it perfectly blots out the sun at some dates for some reason. Why not just make the planet without a moon? Why not just make the planet perfect?
Well, yeah. Why? But that gets smacked with debris.
That's why not put it somewhere where you wouldn't get smacked with debris?
Why not just make a solar system without debris?
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened to the Skype? It looks like I'm wearing Dan as a face.
It's a good thing. But yeah, final thought is moon's really cool. We're going to start learning tons about the moon in the next few decades. And so there are lots of mysteries to be solved about the moon. If you're getting into astronomy and stuff and you feel like doing that, do it. Like we're going to check that, figure out all the mysteries of the moon. Let's do it. Let's go.
Let's get them. Andrew.
I refrain from any more theories for the rest of my podcast.
He
career
gave his theory.
forever.
He was denied his theory.
Holy Christ. That was horrible.
That was great.
I've had a lot of embarrassing moments in this podcast. That's got to be the
It
most.
was more
funny.
embarrassing because you keep saying it's embarrassing.
Yeah. Keep bringing it up.
Oh, dude, I can't live it down. I can't not.
Well,
It's just
Facebook group's
like-
not going to let you live it down because that's
Yeah, definitely not now.
Oh man,
Get ready for the memes.
done.
Meme Central
Retired.
coming up.
Deploy the memes.
yeah. I tap out. I'm tapping out. That's it for me.
All right, let's get into a little bit of lackluster space news.
You know it's good when you got to preface it with lackluster.
I just honestly had to it's a slow week for space news. There's not a lot of good space news. Not a lot of good articles, not a lot of exciting things. I mean, goddamn, we could have just done a monolith check-in, bunch new more monoliths, some in Canada popping up.
Hundreds.
Hundreds everywhere. These just copycat things? Maybe. I guess we'll see. I want one. I'm gonna have one in my yard.
If I find one, I'm taking it.
Yeah. What did I have here? Virgin Galactic Spaceship 2 fails to fire on attempt to reach space. They're having a bunch of setbacks. We've been kind of documenting what seems to be setback after setback for Virgin Galactic. But the latest outing was brought to a premature end due to rocket failure. The vehicle failed to reach space after detaching from its mothership. So, unfortunate setback, but when you have endless amounts of money and all the brightest people in the room, I'm sure they'll get there.
Did Musk tweet at Bezos about being a shitty space
Is it Virgin
engineer?
Galactic?
That's Richard
Branson,
Branson.
Oh,
Yeah, Sir
which
Richard
ones is
Branson.
Amazon?
Amazon's like Blue Origin or
Yeah,
something.
Blue.
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Origin Blue? Something.
Origin.
Blue or something like that. So, but
They'll get there.
some space news.
They'll
What
get
else
there.
did we have here?
Got to talk about the Starship prototype,
Oh, yes.
the one that's going to take humans to Mars. SpaceX, they're testing their Starship, and it ended up crashing, but it was all a success. It was just a minor miscalculation on the landing.
Starship,
I
you mean
guess.
Planet Express?
Planet Express. yeah.
Nailed it.
But they said they gathered tons of data, and they'll be testing again, and
There's
it's
no
on track, I
mistakes,
guess.
just more data.
Yep. Nothing goes to waste when you blow up a $500 million spaceship.
And Dan, you had a cool one you wanted to talk about?
Oh, everybody's been posting one about the space highways.
Oh yeah.
So there's like
super highways.
They made it. Well, it's not really a discovery. People kind of knew about these things, but it's really they've kind of modeled them now, or they've discovered better ways to find these what are described as space super highways. It sounds cool, so it's good for a headline. But they are essentially kind of like I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. It's like a gravitational tube kind of, which allows you to travel faster than you normally would. I think some of the biggest ones they said they were talking about, like perhaps like a one of these super space highways between Jupiter and Neptune. Instead of taking decades, or instead of taking like hundreds of years to get somewhere, it takes a body, things like comets or asteroids or stuff that they get kind of pulled into these space highways, and they go a lot faster than they normally would. So instead of taking hundreds of years to get to a place, it takes like decades, but it's pretty neat. It's cool stuff.
It's a space hyperloop.
Kind of, yeah. It's like just finding these things, or we're better able to detect them now. So now it's these things are kind of popping up all over the place. I think they have these other things. I didn't look fully into it. I know I've heard about Lagrange points. Like I've heard of that. I've heard that terms before.
So ZZ Top song, right?
So I know I've heard of them. I didn't go really deep into it, but from the article that they mention them, but these like gravitational tubes that would just allow you to kind of either accelerate faster or something like that. But I know like they were saying that a lot of most of their data came from the analyzing of like comets and like kind of stuff traveling through our solar system. And they put all the data together and observations of these things happening. They're like, some of this stuff's kind of moving in a certain pattern. They're moving a little bit faster through these areas. What's going on there? And then they kind of like put it all together, and they're like, oh, there's fucking there's a space highway. You're going to ride it all night long. So.
So if we can find one of these space highways, we can cut down our solar system travel potentially. Yeah,
I guess you'd probably call it like a more efficient way. Like you probably wouldn't need as much propulsion or something like that. There's probably some practical application, but I'm not smart enough to put it all together yet.
We're not there yet, but we are starting to detect them.
Yeah, it's cool to know about. So they're like, this is really neat. We haven't really figured out how we're going to use this in the future yet, I don't think, but it's kind of cool to know.
Awesome.
That's pretty much all I had for space news. I didn't think I had any more.
No, the sun is active again. So get ready for him.
Yeah. Get ready for you know what.
Get ready for your favorites. But we're not going to look them up. Look at your your space weather in your local region.
I use spaceweather.com.
It's good shit.
That's my favorite.
All right. X3 has been dismantled. The Randomatron X3 is no more.
It lived X3.
It lived for a few years, couple rebuilds, couple tech upgrades, but she kicked it. So Dan sent me a bunch of parts that he said would make a better one. So I've been putting them together. It's not quite done, but it is, I think, half functional.
I sent Zell a dual quantum discerning engine that allows our new X4 to spit out even double the amount of segments, possibly, because it's quantum and nobody knows how it works.
It's even more random than the X3.
Yes, that would be true.
It has some more settings and can be dialed in. And I think it's going to feature a couple of new things that will be coming. This is the beta test.
Yeah, we haven't calibrated it yet. We haven't fully calibrated it yet. It's still we're still warming up. The miniature black hole containment field needs to be tweaked a little bit. The rotation is not exactly as fast as we'd like it to be. So we're working on that.
Also, let's not forget here that I contributed a little bit. I sent you that VGA to RGB cable.
Oh, right. That was the final thing there. Yeah.
Life RGB is life. I mean, gotta have that in there. Yeah. It's gotta look cool.
Well, so we could hook it up to the TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. I contribute just about as much as I contribute to the podcast on a regular basis.
Andrew,
did you send in a VGA to RGB cable?
Yeah. It's like, that's pretty fucking cool.
That was nice. That was nice. Cool. You did that.
Yeah. Got a couple extra USBs hanging around if you need one of those. Car charger.
I'm going to need do you have a mini HDMI? That's what I'm looking for.
Probably not.
Perfect.
I got a fucking cord, a power cord for a normal Nintendo. You can have one of those. Got to give it
Maybe
back,
rig
though.
that to work. Anyways, the Randomatron, it's almost done. So this week it's not going to be too crazy, but some stuff is coming for the Randomatron. So let's load it up.
Sounds fancy.
Ooh.
It's purring. Dial up.
Okay.
Upgraded.
It's going. Yep. That's the sound a mini black hole makes, if you didn't know.
Oh, it's still got a fan favorite locked into it, though.
Right.
I just want to really quickly say I'm really glad we stuck with the dial up to Morse code option for the Randomatron.
We went from I think, did we go backwards in technology?
No, I feel like this, like connecting those three things has got to be more tech than
I couldn't agree
Yeah,
more.
we're connecting many different generations of tech there. What's that machine you sent me, Dan, that prints it off?
What, the teletype? Yeah.
Teletype, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Yep.
It finishes off with a nice teletype.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It's the peak of innovation.
Wow.
I mean, you have to go back before you go forward. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense.
One step back, then we go forward.
Makes sense.
All right, Mongoose file.
So at the beginning of these things, as we know, it's happened to a friend of a friend of a friend of mine, but obviously it's easier for me to tell the story when I put it in first person. So this particular event takes place in a city, desert-like climate, maybe in the interior of, I don't know, we could say potentially like British Columbia. That makes sense, wouldn't you say?
I'd say so.
Yeah, I think it works. This particular call comes in. It's a call that comes in often. They're coded as wellness checks.
Right.
Comes in. Haven't been able to get a hold of my parent for the last 3 days. My parent is suffering from multiple comorbidities, a few different types of cancers. Parent is not answering their phone, and that's very peculiar for them. So what they'll do in these situations is they'll dispatch an ambulance to go in and just, do what they call as a wellness check and make sure they're okay. A couple red flags go off right away. The illnesses, the fact that it's in a field, in a trailer, kind of spells maybe things aren't going to be going well. I look at my partner and say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and lean towards maybe this person's not with a living anymore. But so hop in the ambulance, make our way to this place. And like I stated before, it was in a trailer on a apple orchard. And as we approach this trailer, it's, it's somewhat run down, a little bit sketchy. And you're just like, you're reading the vibe already. There's random junk. You get your car on the cinder blocks, that type of stuff, and you're just like, I'm just getting a bad vibe from this. We approach the door to this camper. Knock, knock, knock. No answer. Hello, anybody there? No answer. Nothing. So my partner grabs the door and pops the door open. As soon as he pops the door open, a dog just bolts out of the camper, and we're right by the highway. So I looked at my partner, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to go try and track down this dog before it gets hit by a car. He's like, no problem. I'll do the wellness check, grab your radio. So I take off after this dog, and this is officially my mission. I'm going to get this dog safely back to whoever needs to see it, and I don't want it to get hit. So I'm talking 15, 20 minutes of working magic here. You know what I mean?
Hey,
I take
some
off
of
my...
these. Did you use some of these? Hey, buddy.
Come on, buddy. Come on. It's okay. It's okay. And he was, he wanted nothing to do with me. Like, I'm seeing teeth. I'm seeing everything. Guy hates me. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's because I look like fucking Darth Vader. So I unstrap my respirator, because COVID. Take off my glasses, everything, face shield. And I'm like, okay, am I a little bit more friendly now? Dog's still kind of snarling. I'm like, maybe he's racist. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. So After another about 10 minutes, I win him over. Next thing you know, he's in my arms. He's licking my face.
Ugh.
He's beautiful, beautiful dog. Half blue heeler, just like my dog. Beautiful dog. I'm holding him and he's licking my face. Even gets me in my mouth a little bit, like cute stuff. Beautiful
Just
dog.
licked his butt.
We've bonded. I'm even thinking in my head, I'm like, you know what? If this man has met his unfortunate demise, I'm going to take this dog home with me. You know what I mean? Like, I would adopt this dog. It's such a wonderful dog. And I, smile on my face, come trotting up, and, and I can see my partner kind of keeled over. And I'm like, hey, man, everything okay? And he's like, nope.
Ooh.
And next thing you know, I kind of see that he's vomiting. And I'm like, oh, that's bizarre. Must be pretty gross. And then he kind of, sits up, wipes his mouth, looks over me. And first thing he says is, put that fucking dog down. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, just put the fucking dog down. I'm like, no, man, like it's going to bolt. Like, let's at least get a leash. And he says, just put the fucking dog down now. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
no.
Put the dog down. He proceeds to take me into the trailer. And unfortunately, so with these situations, you need you and your partner, to diagnose the death, even though it's an obvious death. And in this case, it was most definitely an obvious death, a death that had taken place probably about 3 to 4 days previous. We've got rigor, lividity, and something we don't actually see very often. The entire front of this man's face was completely licked clean.
Bone?
Bone. This is not a normal occurrence. The coroner shows up and confirms exactly what we're all suspecting, that the dog licked his owner's face clean.
Because he was trapped in there for so many days, got hungry.
For 4 days.
Delicious face
and
meat.
he wouldn't wake up. Yeah. And I got a little delicious French from said dog.
Never
I
let
knew
a dog.
mouth.
I thought that was a weird detail to add at the time.
Yeah.
And I should have
Oh,
known.
yeah, no.
That is
Yeah.
disgusting.
Me and my partner
How'd it taste?
bonded over vomiting together for probably about 15 minutes. It was fantastic. It was good.
By transitive
great. It
property,
was grand.
You're a cannibal now.
Yeah,
By
apparently.
transitive property.
So, moral of the story, don't French
No.
dogs. Or don't let
No.
them French you.
Yeah.
Never,
It's not good.
It's never been a problem.
It's not fucking
Has
good.
your friend of a friend ever seen a pet eat a corpse?
Not a dog. Not
Usually
a fucking
cats.
dog ever. Cats
Cats will eat
when
you.
you
Cats
will
don't give a shit.
remove a
They just-
cat.
They're waiting for you to die.
Cats, within minutes of dying, a cat will eat your fucking nose and your earlobes.
I
What
believe it.
we ended up coming up with later is the fact that we thought that potentially the dog was just trying to wake his owner by licking his face
that's-
and ended up licking.
Yeah,
it
then he
clean.
got a
when you
taste
told
for
me
it.
that,
He's
that's
like,
what I thought. I thought he was just licking because he's like, wake up, come on, you can wake up, and then just like kept doing
Yeah.
it. Because the dog was
the point
obviously in
where
like
it's
some
raw.
trauma too. It's a sad story all around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think our friend of a friend got the worst end of the deal, but
Yeah.
anyways.
I think that dog
fine.
did. He was stuck there.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
You know what? I'm feeling a little bit queasy.
Yeah, that's no thank you. All right. Mongoose out. All right. If you don't know yet, don't know, we have got a second show. Go check it out called Cosmic Channels. I think I've got up to 12 episodes by Wednesday. We'll be out there. So check it out. Listen on Spotify as we prefer, but you can find it anywhere you get podcasts. All right. Newest Patreon supporters this week. There it is. Chase Lovelace, Ronnie B, Connor McShakenbake, awesome. Garrett Edwards, Christian Flowers, Ryan Nixon, Jens John, Austin Glidden, Brandon Webster, Alan Otway, Noah AP, Keith Bell. I recognize this name from a while ago. They're back. Not Agent Mulder in disguise. We know it's you.
Agent Mulder.
Yeah. Brian Tracano, and Olivia. Thank you very much for supporting the show. If you're not already, head over to our Patreon. You can find the link in the podcast description for early access, bonus content, and a whole bunch of other goodies.
Right. Andrew's got our theory of the week.
Oh, yeah. Theory of the week. That's what we missed. Let's put it over top the theme song here.
Our theory of the week is Ryan Nixon. Guy's been absolutely all over our socials. He's been personal messaging us. He's been posting cool shit. Guy's a beauty.
There you go. Theory of the week. If you want to be Theory of the week, you just got to be engaged in the community. Send us memes, funny stuff, makes us laugh and share with each other. Just be an all-around awesome theorite, and you will be considered for Theorite of the Week.
And as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.
See you in after hours.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car-selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. Ah.